Hi folks, this is Grim Perspectives, I'm Grim. We are in the middle of a little series of videos in which we try to create a pen and paper campaign set in the universe of the Diablo franchise. And after we have taken a quick look at the basic rules of the franchise last time, we are now trying to fill in the gaps we left out the last time, and we're gonna meet the rogue. So, stay tuned, because we've got some stuff to do, and it's gonna be fun. What we covered the last time is we have covered tests and dice, so the basic mechanics behind Savage Worlds. We have covered combat, or we've taken the Barbarian for a spin. If you've missed it, head on over to the video. It was fun, at least for me. I hope for you it was fun as well. And we covered the basics, so you should really watch this video first before you go here, okay? And we covered the different difference between extras and wildcards in Savage Worlds, which is quite important and I think unique. I haven't seen another pen and paper system that had the same take on stuff concerning extras and wildcards as Savage Worlds does it. So, what did we leave out? Oh no, we also did tricks in combat, like Intimidate, but I hinted that there are also others that you can use. So, what are we gonna do today? We left out character generation, which is a big part of starting a campaign. You need to know how to generate characters. And we left out hindrances and bennies. If you're new to Savage World, that probably doesn't tell you much, but those are really important role-playing tools in Savage Worlds. So we're gonna take a look at them in this video. So today we're not taking a pre-generated character. No, we're making our own. We're gonna create a character, and we are creating the rogue. Yeah, and no, this is a picture of the Amazon, not the rogue. Well spotted. Why not a picture of the rogue? Well, there aren't any good ones, that's the short answer. Why didn't we do the Amazon as a character now? Well, because the Amazon in Diablo 2 needed to choose between javelins and bows. I wanted to make the characters I'm doing here as general as they can be, so you can fit and choose what you like. And I didn't want to pre-choose for you. We could have done a character who has both the spear and shield and the bow, but then again, a character can really realistically carry a spear, shield, and a bow at the same time. That's pretty tricky business. So we're gonna stay with the rogue and go old school Diablo 1. Okay, so we start with the character concept. For the character concept, we take a look at the lore and look up what the rogue was all about in Diablo 1. And the rogue was part of the Sisters of the Sightless Eye, which, if you played only Diablo 2 and onwards, you know those girls. They are the group in the rogue encampment. And the Sisters of the Silent Eye is based on Eastern principles. They use a technique called the inner sight that they use in combat and to circumvent traps and other dangerous stuff and obstacles. So we've got a roguelike theme, real D&D roguelike theme going here, where you have trap circumvention. And I think if stealth was would have been a part in the Diablo games, the character would fit that quite well. So we keep that in mind, right? That's our character concept. So the next step, attributes. We look at our attributes. We've talked about them for a bit last time when we discussed the Barbarian. And we didn't talk too much about what they actually do. We've got strength, agility, vigor, smarts, and spirit as our attributes. For the character generation, they all start at dice 4, and we can raise 5 of them by 1 step. If the D4 still irks you, well, you remember from the last time, I think, dice sizes. We started 4-sided dice and go up. So after the 4-sided dice comes the 6-sided dice and then the 8-sided dice. If you haven't watched the other videos, go shush over there. It's important that you know that. Take a look at the video about the barbarian. So, which attributes do we pick? Well, first important to know what they do, right? Strength. What does strength do? It influences your carrying capacity. I'm not a big fan of the carrying capacity, but essentially, if you want to carry heavy stuff, especially armor, you need to have a higher carrying capacity. Not that important for a rogue, right? It increases the melee damage. We want to play her ranged. I say her, but essentially I'm doing characters and you can play them whichever gender you want. So, him or her. In this case, I'm gonna stay with her. I'm old school that way. It increases the melee damage. We want to play her ranged, so that doesn't matter too much as well. And weapons have strength requirements. Well, that's a bit of a thing, because in Savage Worlds, bows have a strength requirement, as I think rightly they should. If you've ever read or seen a documentary on anything about bows, especially war bows, bows used in war, those buggers have a really high draw strength, and you need to be not that puny to actually draw them. So we shouldn't dump strengths, it seems. Let's look at the other ones. Agility. Agility mainly influences a lot of skills. We'll see how a bit later. Vigor. Vigor influences toughness. Like we seen last time with the barbarian, toughness can be quite important if you get hit and don't want to drop out of a fight. At the very first opinion, then it might be important to have a high toughness. So again, we don't want to dump that, but it's not the shining key characteristic of our character. And Vigor lets you soak damage. Oh, that's new. We didn't cover that last time. So, soaking damage. How does it work? Well, you get damage. The damage is higher than your toughness, and it's even higher by 4 or more. So you would get a wound. That's bad for your character. You don't want to take wounds, because wounds give you penalties, and it's the first step to, well, being a gravestone. You don't want to do that. So, what do? You can spend a Benny. Ooh, references. We're gonna talk about Bennies a bit later. So, you can spend the Benny and roll Vigor. So you roll your attribute, you roll your wild die, and on a success you soak 1 wound, which means you completely ignore it. It's like you've never taken it. And for each race you soak an additional wound. So if you've taken 2, you need to race to soak both wounds. And that's, I think, a really cool thing. Savage Worlds doesn't work too much with hit points or something like in D&D, where you can have 100 hit points and you all count them down. No, in Savage Worlds it's traumatic if you get hurt, and it's even more traumatic when your tough character grits his teeth, clenches his muscle, and just shrugs it off. That can be a really cool moment for your character. And yeah, that's how soaking works. So Vigor is important for sustaining injuries and living to tell the tale. Next thing, Smart influences skills, and it influences common knowledge. Common knowledge, in Savage Worlds, you have only a very limited amount of knowledge skills. You don't normally skill knowledge. Your character generally has a good chance of knowing everything a character of his status, of his, well, one of his ilk, everything one of his ilk should know. So if you're a barbarian and you come across another tribe, your GM will probably say, well, roll common knowledge to see if you know something about them, because for a barbarian, knowing other barbarian tribes might be considered common knowledge. And what you do then is you roll smarts. Another thing that I quite like about Savage Worlds, but because nobody needs like 10 knowledge skills that your character can put points in to know more or less common stuff. Nobody needs that. So smarts, again, a thing we might need, but it seems it might not be the premier characteristic of a character. And then spirit, it influences some skills, and it influences recovering from being shaken. And we covered shaken last time a bit. If you get shaken, you need to roll spirit to get out of it. And being shaken tends to happen quite a lot. It's what happens to you before you get wounds, and you need to get out of it, because if you don't get out of it, you will take wounds because you are unable to act, you cower down, you're wounded, you're overwhelmed by everything that's happening around you, and the enemy will just pound you. That's not good. Recovery from being shaken is good as well. So again, something we really don't want to dump. So, do you have an idea what we're gonna put where? No. Nah, not really. Am I doing a bad job explaining it? Well, maybe, but the thing is, Savage Worlds has many interlinked systems in place. Attributes, well, a lot of the times here, as said, it influences skills, and if we don't know how it influences skills, we can't really say which attributes we need. So maybe we take a look at skills, right? Let's take a look at skills. Okay, so which skills do we need? I went through the rules and had a look which skills we might want for our rogue. And we might need these: swimming, climbing, both linked to strength, fighting, shooting, stealth, and lockpicking, all linked to agility, and notice, survival, and tracking, all linked to smarts. Okay. And how do those attributes influence the skills? Well, if you have a skill, you have it at a die rating, like those attributes. We talked about this the last time as well. But if you want to improve a skill that is lower than the linked attribute, it costs you 1 point to raise it. If the skill is equal or higher than the linked attribute, it costs you 2 points to raise it. You've got 15 points on character generation. So, the principle is, if you want to improve a skill that's equal or higher than the linked attribute, it's gonna get expensive. And we have had quite a lot of skills we want to take, so it might be best not to make each skill too expensive. Maybe we want to stay equal to or below the rating of the skill. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna take a look and set the attributes, because we now know which skills are linked to what attributes, and we know which are important to us. Like shooting is pretty important to us. And while we're on it, we might pick up stealth and lockpicking, because lockpicking in Savage Worlds also covers things like disabling traps. At least it does in Mind Campaigns. It might be different with other game masters. You might say that it's covered by repair, but I don't like that. I go with lockpicking. So, what do we do with our attributes? Well, swimming and climbing, and we want strength of dice 6 for our bow, so we go with strength of dice 6. Our agility needs to be high, so we can put shooting to a decent level. And stealth and lockpicking are nice as well, so agility, die 8. We want smarts and spirits to be at a dice 6. We don't want those low. That's not that good of an idea. And that means we don't have the points to put vigor any higher than a dice 4. It's a good setup so far, but the low vigor die is gonna hurt us. We're gonna see if we can push that a bit. We'll have some opportunities later on, but for the moment we're gonna stay with them that way. So now next thing, we are gonna set our skills. And while swimming, okay, we want it as dice 4, you don't want to drown. Climbing at a dice 6 for a roguelike character who might want to scale a wall or two, that's pretty important. Fighting at a dice 6, so we can hit something that comes close to us. Shooting is important for us. We're gonna put it at an 8-sided die, as well as strength. And lockpicking and notice at 6-sided dice. But then, if we take a quick count, we have left every skill equal or below our the rating of the attribute. That means each of those improvement has cost us only 1 point, and if we take a quick calculation, then the 4-sided dice cost us 1 point, so 1 point for swimming. Those 6-sided dice cost us 2 points, so notice, lockpicking, fighting and climbing each 2 points. For 8 points, we're swimming together, total of 9 so far. And the 8-sided dice in shooting and stealth cost us 3 points each, which means 6 points for the both of them, together with the 9 points we had so far, 15 points. We are out of points, no points for survival and tracking. Well, yeah, those would have been nice, but we haven't had the opportunity to put them in so far. Okay, maybe we'll get an opportunity later on. One thing is still missing at our character generation, because you might, well, the character concept at this moment is pretty cool. I think we've covered the things we need for the character so far, but it doesn't yet feel like a character with really cool features. If you're used to D&D, where everything is a special feature, you can hit something pretty hard, you get a special feature for that. If you're used to that kind of role-playing system, then you might feel underwhelmed by something as basic as that. And everything that's more special than those basic stats here in Savage Worlds is covered in an edge. An edge is something that would be called a feat in Dungeons and Dragons, and has several other names in all those other role-playing systems we like to play in Savage Worlds. It is called an edge. And at character generation, since all our characters are human, if you Savage Worlds, I told about it, you about it in the last time, in the last videos. Savage Worlds is a role-playing system that can be played in very different settings. There might be different races. In Diablo, we pretty much only have humans, and humans get a free edge, so we get a free edge. So what are we gonna choose? Well, we are a rogue, so I thought it would be nice if we took the thief edge. All those edges, those skills, the attributes, you can all look them up in the rules, and I will link you the test drive rules for Savage Worlds, which is a free brief preview of the rules. I will link them down below. The thief edge has requirements. It requires us to have agility of die 8, climb of die 6 or more, lockpicking of die 6 or more, and stealth at an 8-sided die or higher. So I cheated a bit, looked it up before, and set our skills accordingly. You might notice, yeah. And it gives us +2 to climb, +2 to lockpick, +2 to stealth, and +2 to rolls made to trick, deceive, detect, or disarm traps. That's great. I think that's what a thief should be able to do. You know, scale walls, get somewhere where he needs to go. yeah, get somewhere, even if there's a locked door or a locked chest in the way. +2 to stealth, not be seen on the way. And if there's a trap in the way, at least not die. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. We have the Thief Edge. Okay, now we are nearly done with character generation. Only one more thing, well, two more. We've got some options left. Characters in Savage Worlds can take hindrances. Hindrances is something your character can't do, or is bad at, or has just some quirks that are generally more than a hindrance to him than they are a benefit. So they can take hindrances, and we get points for hindrances. We can take 2 minor hindrances for 1 point each, or a major hindrance for 2 points. And we can take up to 2 minor hindrances and 1 major hindrance. We can take them both, so we can get 4 points for those hindrances. So, what are we gonna pick? I went through the list and I thought it would be nice to go with Vengeful, we hold a grudge. Stubborn, we want to get our way. And Curious, we want to know everything about everything. Those here, that's just my personal preference. If you want to play a character who's loyal and heroic because he's read too many heroic novels as a child, or who's a loner because he's grown up as an orphan or has some other peculiarities, it's all possible. Those are just my preferences, with which I will go with here for character generation. So that means we take Vengeful as a minor hindrance. We get all 4 points that we could get. What do you do with those 4 points? For 2 points we can raise an attribute or choose an edge. For 1 point we can get another skill point or increase our starting funds we use to buy gear with by 100%. Ooh, I know what we're gonna do. We lack the points to raise vigor to a die 6, and we lack the points to raise to skill, survival, and tracking. So we're gonna use 2 points to increase vigor, and we're gonna use 1 point each to get survival and tracking and a 4-sided dice. Cool. That looks like all that was on a shopping list. Cool. So, 2 more things we need to do. Really quick things. There are some statistics that you don't choose as such, but that are calculated from your other statistics. And those are toughness, which is 2 plus half your vigor die. So if you've got a 6-sided die, as we do, 1/2 that die size is 3. So 2 plus 3, 5. We've got a toughness of 5. Parry, 2 plus 1/2 your fighting die. Our fighting die is a 6-sided die, so we have a parry of 2 plus 3 for a total of 5. And we've got a pace of 6. Pace is how many squares you can move, or you can calculate the number of meters if you don't play by a grid. And your charisma is not an attribute like in D&D or something like that. It's just a modifier you use for some skill rolls, and if you don't have an edge or a hindrance that changes that, you start with a charisma of 0. Okay, so we did that. There's one other thing missing at the moment, and that is gear. I've just went through the list and picked some stuff out for us. We start with a short bow, a dagger, leather armor, and thieves' tools, and the only thing we need to add or change in our character sheet is we've got leather armor, which gives us 1 point of armor, which raises our toughness for all purposes when we are wounded or stuff like that to 6. Okay. That was, well, not too much work creating character, right? And we came through it pretty good, and the character looks good. I think she looks pretty good. She's got that high agility, she's got that shooting and stealth going, and she's got this really, really nifty thief edge. And, well, if we advance her for a bit, if we play her a bit, and in D&D it would be called level up, in Savage Worlds that's called an advancement, we might pick up some other class features on the way that proves pretty nifty. It took like 20 minutes, which is, well, a long video, but for character generation in a pen and paper game, that's not that long, and I wanted to take you through it step by step. So, we create a character, and she looks pretty good. So, I want to take just a minute to talk a bit more about the role-playing tools I mentioned earlier, about hindrances and bennies. And the thing behind them is, if you play on your hindrances, if there's a dark and scary room and you don't know if you really need to go in there, but your character is curious, you just want to know what's in there. Or maybe your character is greedy and he expects that there would be treasure in there, then you can play on that hindrance. And if there's really trouble, well, you at least get a Benny for it. What can you do with Benny? We covered soaking. You can soak wounds, which makes your character tougher than he normally would be. And what you can do is you can re-roll skill rolls or attribute rolls, which can come in pretty handy as well. So how effective your character is not only determined by his skills, but also by his by how you played, how you play to his strengths and his weaknesses, which is pretty nice, I think. Good. So, what will we do next? Well, let's take a quick look at the plan and what we've done so far. I wanted to talk about the theme we're gonna develop in our campaign. I wanted to talk about the rules we're gonna use. I wanted to talk about the adaptations we need to make the rules fit our campaign. And I wanted to talk about really setting up the campaign. So developing our no-player characters, setting the stage, deciding where we're gonna play it, all that stuff. But first things first, we need to talk about the theme. We have done so. We needed to talk about the rules, but you can't talk about adapting the rules if you don't know what the rules are. We've done a good part of talking about the rules, and then we'll talk what to adapt, and then we'll talk about setting up our campaign. And with the rules, we talked about the mechanics, we've talked about character generation, and what is still left is maybe the thing that makes it not medieval history, but medieval fantasy, because we haven't covered magic so far, and next time we're gonna cover magic. Okay, I really like doing those videos. I hope that some of you are getting a kick out of it as well. If you like it, please hit like. If you want to stay tuned and see what happens next, hit subscribe. If you know something who might get a kick out of it as well, who likes pen and paper, who maybe likes Savage Worlds, I really don't know how many Savage Worlds players are out there, but it is by far the role-playing system I like best. Maybe you know someone who likes it. Maybe you haven't played it before. Maybe we should start talking about that. How many of you are new to Savage Worlds? How many of you know it? How many of you have used it before? Did you set up your own campaign, or did you use something that was created before? Really? Comment. I'd like to start a discussion here. I would really like to know where you come from concerning pen and paper. So, like, subscribe, and tell someone who might like it as well. So, until the next time, let us create something wonderful, right? Grim out.